Hey traders, this is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and this is a quick video on what the TTG Watchlist program is. So, risk disclaimer in front of you, everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. So you may have heard me talk about the TTG Weekly Watch List program. So it's one of three programs that I run at Tribeca Trade Group, and it's something new. We started this back in August, and I got the idea from this from a colleague because every week, what we do at Tribeca Trade Group is compile a weekend watch list, right? So I think a lot of traders do that for the upcoming week. They kind of look for names that they want to position in, look for names that are signaling, a bullish setup for most of the time. Could be a short setup as well, but most of the time a bullish setup. So what is this program, and why do I think it's kind of it's fun and interesting to do? So here it is in a nutshell, right? So the weekly watch list program. So first of all, why would I want to do something like this before I kind of get into what it is? Well, because why just put in the time and effort, right? If you were looking to, capitalize and trade more active, I think that this is a great way to kind of put your time and effort into work and into play. I personally, why I'm doing it too, is I believe the analysis that I do is going to work out in terms of outperforming the overall market, which is SPY. Again, we don't know if that's going to happen every week, but that's kind of my goal, right? And there's a couple other things in here too. If you're holding, in one of your accounts, if you're holding, let's say a portfolio of names, one of the things that always kind of comes to mind for me is once you are in those names, right, there's a little bit of bias, right? You always want those names to perform well. Well, what if you took off those names every week or once a month and then had to make the decision again, would you go ahead and buy those names again? So this is kind of interesting because we're only doing this program for the week. And then at the end of the week, once those names are removed, I'm compiling a new watch list. Now, some of the names may repeat as long as I think that they're still quality. But you have to kind of think about things. You begin to think about things more objectively, right? So sometimes you would not exactly own those same names. Maybe you got got the move that you were looking for. Maybe there's something that there's a new development in that company that you wouldn't want to own it anymore. Maybe it didn't actually trigger for you. All right, so would you own those same names or would you find new setups? So it's a really interesting question, I think, to kind of to ask. The process for how I'm doing this, and this is something that I've kind of developed over the last couple months, is what I do is I buy the whole watch list, which for me is usually about 15 to 25 names, depending on what I'm finding in the market on a week-to-week basis. So I'm buying those names on the open, and I'm holding them to the end of the week, to Friday. Then what happens on Friday is I'm selling the watch list, and then I'm buying SPY. So I want to make sure that I'm staying invested the whole time. But I want to make sure that I'm following the procedure of getting out of that watch list. And the SPY, especially what we've seen in the last couple of months, where the market rallies into, there's been some gap ups going into Monday morning. That's why I also have the SPY on there, right? And that is known as your beta, right? Your alpha generation should be the watch list, but making sure that you have that exposure through the weekend, in my opinion, is important. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking that watch list that I developed over the weekend, and I'm not legging into that, but I'm actually buying that watch list on Monday morning, and I'm selling the SPY. Right. And of course, my process is going to be different than most, right? I do things like, I have a whole weekend process where I'm scanning for names. I do that in FinViz. and I use the market webs, right, which is my proprietary or our proprietary indicator that we use to look for breaking out of consolidation, and yeah. So I don't want to get too much into my process, but anybody can kind of do this with their own watch list. But of course, my goal is to kind of outperform the market with my process, right? So with my weekend watch list. All right. So the advantages of doing something like this, the majority of the majority of moves happen in the overnight market, right? I'm not going to go into details about this, but you can Google this if you don't believe me. There's been various studies about how much of the move takes place between in the overnight market versus the cash open. The difference is startling in terms of performance. So that is why it's important to kind of stay invested. Of course, you could do some day trading here too, but that's not the goal of this program. The goal of this program is to stay invested and to be objective, right? So making those adjustments every week to say, hey, do I want to basically own the same names, right? And by taking them off and doing that analysis again, you kind of find whether or not those names are something that you want to be in every week. All right, so there's a little bit of time efficiency too. If you don't have time, I hear this from traders over and over that they'll have a flexible schedule sometimes, if they're a part-time trader and they're like, oh great, I have time to trade, and then all of a sudden they get hit with a work project, or their work does become busier, and they're like, oh geez, I don't have time to trade anymore. Well, this process is very easy, right? It takes about 15 minutes to kind of enact this watch list, and then do the process on Friday again, which doesn't take long to substitute out of this and go into the SPY trade. So it's fairly easy and time efficient. How I'm doing that, by the way, there's a system called M1 Finance, but there's multiple portfolio trading programs that you can use, different brokerage programs. I use M1 Finance. They're pretty easy to use. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you kind of get used to it, the process is pretty simple. And again, that program it's called M1 Finance. So again, nice little portfolio program that you can do, and yeah, it's pretty easy to navigate. All right, so there are a few negatives with this too. So it's important, as always, with any program to talk about that. There could be transaction costs. So, those transaction costs, right? Probably I wouldn't be running this type of program if, we're into this new era right now where commissions are free for a lot of applications, or something like this where M1 Finance does not charge if you use just one of their windows. I use two. They offer two different trading windows, and you do have to pay a small annual fee for that. So I of course, because I'm using this every week, it's a very small fee, but really, the nice thing about this is you don't get, a couple of years ago, you would get charged a lot of money for substituting in and out of stocks like this for a week. The other big thing that you have to worry about here is taxes. I'm not a tax advisor, but this is going to generate some short-term taxes. This is a big turnover, right? Because you're substituting one portfolio for another. So I would make sure that you're okay with the tax structure. Again, speak to your tax specialist and make sure that this is okay for what you're doing, as any program. And again, I'm not giving out any advice here, not giving out any recommendations. This is purely informational and what I'm doing to take advantage of putting in all that time and effort for you to, doing research and so forth. Why not take advantage and capitalize off of it? Here's a little bit just as kind of preview, of what we did, in terms of last week. right? So this is exactly why I want to take advantage of this, utilize this program to take advantage of my efforts, right? We had a very good week in terms of what this portfolio did. It was up 2.8% last week. And I'm finding that I'm having now. This was a little bit better week than normal, considering SPY was down about 0.7% for week. But more often than not, I am outperforming the overall market. So again, that's why I want to take advantage of this. Since I started this program on August 10th, I've returned about 20%. And really, once I start the new year, this has been a little bit of what I would call like a pilot program for the first couple months, getting the procedures down. But this is going to be more, formalized once we start the beginning of the year. I'll be putting out the performance data, every week. And I think it's so. Besides all of the bullet points that I've covered here, this is really fun and it keeps you really interested. I think for me, it definitely makes it motivates me more when you have skin in the game, right? When you're risking capital, right? It really kind of helps me get organized for the week and motivates me to kind of put together a really quality watch list, right? So anyway, that is the program. I hope this helps. Anybody can do this, but of course, I would hope that you would do this at Tribeca Trade Group if you were going to participate in this. And you can go to our site and you can sign up for this as well as our trading room that we're involved in every day, where we do various different things, and that's a whole nother video. So thanks for watching, guys, and enjoy your weekend.